What? Good evening, one and all. Happy Wednesday. How are we? Are we good? Hope you're all doing well. A little bit far behind because I had to go and get some fresh water. What's happening? You guys hear me? What is going on? You can hear me. So this is telling me that I'm disconnected, right? Which is not true. My app is freaking out. Sorry, I need to just sort this out. Otherwise there's going to be no overhead camera and you won't be able to see anything of what I'm doing. I can read you, I can hear you, I can see you. I love you. All that good stuff. I'm just gonna restart the camera. That's what we're going to do. Yeah, technology is lying to me. Thanks, OBS. You're a real fun guy. Everyone calls you a mushroom. You're very well connected, as we know, with all the GW loot. Some might call that good connections. Others might call that... I mean, it is good connections. How are we? Are you all good out there? Are you all happy? Are you all feeling good? Because I'm very tired. Been working exceptionally hard, as I always am, on a bunch of cool content. And yeah, I've got a couple of videos I need to finish tonight. I don't need to film anything, but I need to do some decals and I need to do some basing. All my favourite things. But you guys out there can tell me whether you're excited for the Ironweld Great Cannon or the Command Core. Because both of those things are done. I don't know why I'm doing this. Oh, because I saw your name, Guitar Music Headbang, and I just started doing that. I'm painting with Bile Red, so very happy. Oh, yeah, no, I will be building Fulgrim eventually. Okay, why are you not? So when I connect my phone, it's not going into portrait mode, into landscape, which is annoying because we need it to do that. We currently selected GPU. What? What do you mean there's a problem? I don't understand why you would suddenly not like my GPU. That's very confusing. That's very odd. Yeah, that one. This is very strange. At last. Very strange. Very, very, very strange. Okay. So now, if I plug this in... Oh no, we don't need to because we're connected via the internet. Which is fun. Hi, Lehman Russ. Any chance you'll ever do a black coach video? Yes, if Alice ever wants one. You have to convince Alice that she wants a black coach. And that she wants me to paint it for her. There we go. See? Look at that. Isn't that sexy? The classic overhead shot of the Warhipster. Finally got it working. I've got everything built. I've just now got to prime it, then stare at it for 6 months, then potentially consider painting it. That's like most of my projects. That's what that's like. See, she doesn't want one. She doesn't like the model. So yes, as mentioned, we have ourselves the command core. So here is the Great Herald, the Soul Shepherd, this thing, Gargoylian, I think is what they're called. We have the Arch Knight. We have the Whisper Blade. And we have, oh god, we have the War Surgeon. What we also have is the Ironweld Great Cannon. Here it is. So these are all done, and their videos are due to come out very shortly. But there's a couple of things left to do on them, such as the basing, which I need to do tonight, because one of these videos will come out tomorrow, and one of them will come out on Friday. We get 2 Cities of Sigmar videos in a row. And then the Fusiliers will happen at a later date. So I'm going to just start getting on. And we're going to talk, we're going to hang out, we're going to get this done as quick as possible. Because I've spent 12 minutes now knobbing about with technology. And that is unforgivable. So I've got to get on with it, you know. I'm very busy, got lots and stuff to do, and I would love to, at some point, maybe throw on some Realms of Ruin tonight. But that's, like, unlikely, you know. So, you know, it is what it is. So I'm going to just do the bases, and then I'll do the decals. So if you're ever wondering how I do my decals, you'll get to see that tonight. And I'm sure everyone will have thoughts, because I don't do it properly. I do it quickly. Because the Cities of Sigmar stuff is really easy to put your decals on, because everything's so flat and open. But as always, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. If you fancy leaving a like on the stream, I would be really appreciative. And if you fancy subscribing to the channel, as you can see, we're at 5550, which is quite a pleasing number, but it's not 100,000. And we would like to get to 100,000. Especially if you want to see me do a stilt walk. Offer expires at midnight. And if you're feeling super generous, you could always consider becoming a YouTube member, which would be incredible. And yeah, let's talk. How are you guys? Are you guys all well? I've not recovered from Realms of Ruin, by the way. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I've had to not play it because I've been really busy the last couple of days. Building and painting and getting stuff ready. The good old Tyrant Skull dry brush. Exactly. It's what I'm known for, really, these days. There you go. 2 down. Watching this and playing Doom. Oh, Doom 1 or... Well, is it Doom Remastered? The new Doom? Is it original Doom? Or is it Doom Eternal? Because the most recent 2 Doom games have been unbelievable. Oh, Cameron. No, that's not the one. We don't like to hear that. I'm sorry. I've got to tell you guys, this set of models is incredible, but it was a lot of work to paint. Well, I mean, I'd hardly say my stream was better than the gym, but we all know it is. Because in my stream, the worst that can get hurt is your feelings. Whereas at the gym, you know, you could pull a hammy, could damage your quads, could slip a disc. Stream on the gym. I'm not sure I'm motivational enough for gym viewing, you know. Like, you kind of want to see an episode of Law and Order or whatever, or NCIS, because you know they're going to be running. Whereas watching a bearded bloke fiddle with toy soldiers for 20-minute run, I don't know if that would motivate me, you know. All right, last one. Need more paint. There you go, delicious relish. Hi, Wolves. I've painted my Sylvaneth in your colour scheme. We're wondering if you had any headcanon for your Wargrove. Do I have any headcanon for my Wargrove? I'm not entirely certain that I do. I can tell you what it was inspired by, though. It was inspired by Ghost of Tsushima. And if you've played the game, and I tell you, remember the imagery of the final duel, then you'll know what I'm talking about. In the graveyard, that was the color I tried to kind of replicate as best I could in sort of a Warhammer-esque way, because that scene just in its imagery just really kind of connected with me. You know, there's the white and the red blossom of the trees. So that was the kind of thing I was wanting to kind of replicate within the scheme, which is why there's so much red on them. So I guess in some ways the headcanon is that the Wargrove is a last resort, or is the last defense of a homeland, I would guess. Maybe so much of the forest is gone, all that's left is the last few. So they switched to unconventional tactics, and thus forsake their honor. That kind of thing. But feel free to make it up. Do whatever you like. You can do whatever you like. Live! There we go. Hi everyone, do you think achieving a good finish over flat panels is easier with contrast than army paint or speed paints? I'm asking because in theory speed paints dry faster. Speed paints actually dry slower. That's one of their key features. However, you have to use a lot. I found you have to use a lot more paint with army paint or speed paints to get that kind of real rich color saturation. Same thing for the Vallejo Express, which then means because they dry slower, it means it can get away from you a little bit. It can get away from you in terms of how much you have on the brush, which can then lead to that coffee staining that all of these types of paints struggle with. So flat panels is tough. Probably the easiest one to do it with, but at the moment, until they come out, we don't know the answer for the new Vallejo stuff. until they come out, we don't know. But the Vallejo stuff is the easiest one to paint Space Marines with because it dries so slowly, but it's also not that strong. So some of their colours are a bit weak, and you have to do 2 layers of it. And when you have to do 2 layers of something, it's never it's not as contrasty as you want it to be. A really good thing, something to help you with flat panels. If you're doing like on infantry size models, when it comes to tanks and things, it's a different story. But when you're doing, say, a Space Marine, which is usually the thing I get asked about, 4 brush loads of the paint you want plus 1 of medium, and it'll be a lot smoother and easier to control. That's the ratio I found is like a real sweet spot. Are you looking forward to painting the FEC models? Mr. Martian, I absolutely am. They're the night creatures in my Soulblight Gravelord's Castlevania-inspired army. And having seen, what was his name? Justice Gormain. I was like, yeah, I'm into this. I'm here for this, 100%. And I was like, it's so Castlevania, it's so cool. So, yeah, I mean, that's what my Soulblight Gravelord's army is supposed to be inspired by. The anime, the animated show. But yeah, I mean, just that model, right? How absolutely unbelievably cool is that model? Justice Gormain. It's so good. And like, it kind of like, for me, that one inspired the title of tonight's stream, because I think 40k has some serious catching up to do. Because that Justice Gormain and the Gore Warden, actually, I really like the Gore Warden. Although the Gore Warden's quite funny, because I saw somebody say the other day, just picture the model opening a door with all of its keys. And it is actually quite a funny image to have in your head. But the Gore Warden is a small infantry character, and the internet's lost its mind over it. So it's like, it's not like it's a, you know, I've talked about how AOS models are clearly better than 40k models now, and it's because, you know, they've got so many big impressive monsters. So like last week, couple of weeks, we've had Ionis Cryptborn, and we've had Talia Vedra, and we've had Belthanos, First Thorn of Kurnoth, and that's just like the last couple of weeks. Before that, we had Trug, the Troggoth King. We had the Maw Grunter, the Tusk Boss on Maw Grunter, to give it its full name. Got there eventually. You know, and these are like kind of big centerpiece models, and like they're smaller models. You know, you can kind of go, well, some of the 40k ones are just, you know, really nice, and they absolutely are. But like, that's the thing, is when you're, the most exciting thing to be, when Games Workshop goes, oh yeah, look, here's a 32mm character for Age of Sigmar for the Flesh Eater Courts, and the internet goes bonkers over it because it's such a cool model and it's an insane concept. And then like Necrons, it's like, hey, here's a version of Imhotep the Stormlord with a slightly nicer cloak, but otherwise the pose is almost identical. He's just turned a little bit on his midriff, and he's not doing anything particularly interesting. You know, it's like, come on, guys. And then, like, day before yesterday, playing Realms of Ruin, it felt like a return to, as everyone kept saying in the chat, it looks like Dawn of War. Well, yeah, and it plays like it as well, and that is a huge compliment, I think, in the Warhammer space, because Dawn of War is such a popular game. And so, you know, Space Marine 2 is on the way. And maybe that will excite and ignite, you know. But right now, I just feel like 40k is just like resting on its laurels as being its, you know, flagship game. And that makes me sad because, I gotta confess something to you guys. I don't like the new system for the books. I don't like it. I feel like it's yet to wow me. Um, because so far, I think the most interesting things. I mean, Tyranids are a slight exception in that they had the Vanguard Onslaught detachment thing, which changed the battlefield role of Death Leaper. But I just feel like in the Space Marine book and in the Tyranids book, none of them are really pushing you towards building a thematic army in any way, because there's no restrictions in either of them. They're all just, these particular units get something or get one thing, and that's fine, I guess. But it's like they're never quite as compelling as the one that's in the index. And my worry is that, as we saw with the Tyranids one, where a lot of people have leaned into the Vanguard one, but most people, from a competitive standpoint, have stuck with the index version. I worry that Index Hammer, in terms of the detachments, is here to stay. And that we're going to get to sort of 10 codexes in before any book actually dramatically changes the shape of the game, or anything provides anything kind of I guess compelling enough to not just take the index version. You see? Yeah, you guys are. You guys are getting me. You feeling me, right? And I think the sad thing about it for me, this is where I find it not sad, I guess, slightly frustrating, is that Games Workshop is currently making some of the best models, if not most of the best models in the world, at scale. And they just keep dropping bangers left, right, and center, and it's like there's all this inspiration over on the Age of Sigmar side, and that's fantastic for me as a fan of Age of Sigmar. I love Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar is my favorite, and it has been for a long time. I've just done a lot more 40k because I don't like, my kind of gaming circle, as it were, the Adams and the Riches and that of the world. They're all kind of more 40k gamers, and so my engagement with playing the game mostly comes from going to tournaments. And so going to AOS tournaments is hard because I don't want to go on my own, because that's not part of the experience for me. I like going with my mates and talking strategy and hoping not to have to come up against them, but also just like feeding back on the day and this, that, and the other. Because I'm not going to go to the pub with strangers. That's a terribly anxious position for me to be in. I can't do that. So I just, I always really like that kind of aspect of it, and I like those shared experiences with my mates. And that's why I haven't been to been solo to AOS tournaments, because it's hard to get that engagement sometimes. And so I've done a lot of 40k, and let me be clear, I don't hate 40k. I love it. It formed such a formative part of my life from when I was younger. I thought it the most impressive thing in the universe, and I thought it was truly unique to me, at least. The experience that I had, before someone gets mad at me about the story. to me, it was like this was just a completely different universe that I was stepping into, and I loved it, and I will always treasure 40k for that fact. But right now, it's not giving me that. It's not giving me, as I've often referred to it, it's not giving me any belly fizz. It's not making me do squeaks, little squeals of joy and happiness. But you know, Ionis Cryptborn did live on stream. You can go and see it. If you go and check out my preview stream of the of that of that one a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? Ionis Cryptborn, Balthanos. I went a bit giddy over them, and you know, I just this was the thing, and so like as I've gotten older, my tastes have changed. Obviously, you know, like for me when I was younger, painting was a thing you kind of did if you had time or for fun or because you had to because you were going to something. But obviously my entire life is now painting because for me it is it's the best part of Games Workshop, as well as all, you know, the rich narrative and background and all that kind of thing. And playing the game as well is like it kind of sits in third, I think, for me now, playing the game, but like not a distant third, you know. So as I've gotten older, my tastes have changed in terms of what I want from my tabletop wargaming experience because I love painting, and so it's a no-brainer that AOS would be something that, to me, as a painter, would be far more interested in than a Necron. That's interesting, Chewy. Legions Imperialis, that's a fun one to explore. Because I had my reservations about it when it was announced, because I don't see how I don't see how it's like going to be the biggest and best thing ever, because they're all so tiny. But at the same time, like, there is that childlike imagination of one of the things that we all pictured of, well, at least let me just kind of clarify that. As for me, when I was a kid, the thing I pictured the most and the thing I wanted the most was an entire chapter of Space Marines. Now, in today's economy, that's quite hard to do at 32mm scale, but also you've got way more variation and loads of cool stuff in there that you can make a really intriguing and awesome looking Space Marine army. Absolutely you can. But with Legions Imperialis, it's possible to do that very, very quickly. I mean, like, you get something like, is there like 100 Space Marines or something in the box? Something like that. There's a lot of Space Marines in the box. So, like, depending on how they're sold, in terms of, like, the formations or detachments or however they're going to be sold or whatever, or the boxes of miniatures. They've previewed some of them, haven't they? Like the Skywing Talon, where it had the jet bikes and speeders and bikes and things, and they're like, you get all of this in the box, so that's cool. It's very possible and conceivable that you can build that gigantic army very quickly at a small scale, and it makes you feel mighty. I mean, just doing my Reaver Titan, when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I feel pretty cool with this. And like, I like the idea of having Reavers and Warhounds and Warlords and all that kind of thing, but then having lots of little scurrying men around the feet. But for me, like, the most interesting thing about doing that would be if we were able to, which they haven't previewed yet or said is going to happen or anything like that, is if Mechanicum were to happen at the epic scale. Because then you can have like the what are they called? You know, the Skitarii that are just the Titan friends. I take it you'll be painting them, Josh. Who knows, Justin? Oliver Griffiths, thank you very much for being a member for 8 months. We're just 1 month away from giving birth to our relationship, baby. And I hope that doesn't make you uncomfortable. I need a decal sheet. Okay, guys, I need you to all not be mad at me in the way I do decals. Okay? I'd be very, very appreciative if you didn't get cross. Yeah, it is a bit strange that it's Legions Imperial. It is just, well, it's not strange, is it? It's Horus Heresy. It makes sense, but like, it's because they want you to have large armies of Space Marines, because that's cool, and you can't really do that in 40k because you could only have 1,000 Space Marines. Well, I suppose you could do it in 40k. I don't have anything to cut this on. That's annoying. Justin. Got any bits of card? Just milling about. Oh no! Hold on. So we need one of these. No, this isn't sturdy enough. What about this one? I have a box I normally do this on, but it's currently being used. Hammerhawk Aksha. And we need... Is it a big one or a little one? Big one. We need one of these ones, I believe. So yeah, I'm waiting patiently for 40k to do something that makes my belly fizz, and maybe that will be in the form of non-generic Space Marines. Maybe that'll happen. Like, let's say some Deathwing Terminators or something come out. Yeah, I think that's the right size. We shall find out. I just think, like, you know, the Norn Emissary is a great example of a Tyranid kit that is incredibly impressive, looks fantastic, but is incredibly unimaginative. You know? Because I really like that Norn Emissary. But it's not that imaginative. You know, it's a bipedal Tyranid monster. It's like, so it's just a hive tyrant, but bigger. You know? Okay, so guys, like I said, I don't want you to all get mad at me. But here's what we do. We're using Microsol and Microset. Hello, Robbie. salamander melter gun colour. What do you mean? What's your favourite city lore-wise, hipster? Oh, I really like Hammerhall Aksha. Well, and Gyra. Hammerhall's really important to the setting. I'm interested to see what happens to it as well. Okay. So now I grab some microset. Sol. Microset. Apply this all over the area. Thusly. Grab my decal. Which now doesn't want to move. There we go. And bang it on there. And yes, I know you're supposed to get your gloss out and smooth down the area and all that, but we just don't have time. Especially when it can be done this quickly. That is way off center. Oh, there we go. Do you think there will be a Vanguard box for cities anytime soon? I'm not sure about soon, but I think it will happen early next year. And then we just press down with a bit of kitchen roll. And then we wait for it to dry for like 25 minutes. It is quite warm in here though, so it should dry pretty quickly. I'm going to grab some more water and whack this over top of this one because it might be dried out, but it's not. It's clearly still quite malleable. So once again, I'm going to come in here, fill up my brush with microset. Apply it over the surface. Try and scoop up the decal. Bang it down. Grab a little bit more microset. And let's get moving. This one feels a little bit harder to position. It's way too far over now. Yeah, it's not immediately obvious where this one sits. Because look, that's off center, right? Hang on. That feels close enough. Yeah, there we go. Now we leave it to dry for a minute. The Vanguard is likely to be the starter box for Cities, though, right? Yeah. So it's likely to be it's likely to be what was in the army set. So a unit of Cavaliers, 20 Steel Helms, Alchemite Warforger, and a Marshal with Envoy. But there you go. They're not done, but we're just sat waiting for them to dry for a little bit. Everyone get mad at him. Please don't. Be nice to me. Praise me. Become a YouTube member and like the stream. 27 more likes and we get to the magic number, guys. We're on 42, which is the answer to everything. It is the answer to the question. I mean, this one's probably nearly dry. Feels close. I do have some of these Fusiliers done. Why did you choose Microset / Sol over, say, Tamiya Mark, Fit, Vallejo Decal Solution, or Mr. Mark Set Sol? I went for them because it's what the internet recommended me. I got hit by a barrage of people hating me for doing it with Lamy and Medium and all that kind of thing. So I was like, well, what do you recommend? And everyone was like, Microsol, Microset. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll get those. And then nobody on the internet has a really good, succinct guide. Everybody uses it completely differently, which is useful from a hobby product. Delicious relish. I'm so sorry. What can I do to make it up to you? So like I said, I've done 5 of the Fusiliers. So there's one. There's another. I sadly haven't had time to finish the unit yet. I will, but they're in progress. But they look fantastic. They're just quite a they're quite a time to have. Big Bad Peter Gaming gifting 5 memberships like an absolute boss. Thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. These are our first members of the day. And that puts us on 283. There we go. Let's get a hype train going, guys. We're not on Twitch. Can you reveal what you've been painting recently? No, Cameron. I sadly can't. But all will be revealed in good order. So now I take a bit of Microsol and just apply this over the top, thusly, like that. And then we leave that to dry. Will you be able to after Saturday morning? I can neither confirm nor deny that. Oh, dearie me. You guys are bad. Watch along stream. Maybe if I can make it work. It is quite early in the morning, and I'm not entirely certain. Would there be a tutorial on highlighting trog cheeks? Is that a specific tutorial that you want? That might have to be a members / Patreon exclusive, because I think if I put that one out on YouTube, YouTube will just be like, what? And then I'll get my cheeks clapped. All you need is another 5 boxes of the Command Core and you have a formidable Warcry team. Can you do that? Is that a thing you can do? Only cheeks. Hello everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Only Cheeks exclusive. And today we are painting the magnificent, the wonderful, the rambunctious Trog Cheeks. Other than Talia Vedra, is there anything else a living city army should not have from the new city stuff? Well, Talia Vedra can be involved. I don't think she's keyword locked. Nothing is in Age of Sigmar, really. They never stop you from taking things. It's just you don't interact, I don't think. But I don't know. I'm not sure she has Hammerhall Aksha in her keywords. One thing I think you can do in Living City, and I don't know where the book is. I think it's downstairs. Is that you can have Sylvaneth involved. But no, there's nothing you shouldn't have in the Living City army. Let me look it up. 1 minute. Let's go back to this one. Only Paints. Shall I be the content creator that launches Only Paints? It's the monetized platform that lets painters get paid for sharing pictures of their stuff. Not just pictures of paints. Right, here you go. Yeah, so the Living City, during deployment, instead of setting up a Living City unit or an allied Sylvaneth unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that it's set up in the hidden paths as a reserve unit. You can set up one unit in the hidden paths for each Living City unit you have set up on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phase, you can set up one or more of these reserve units on the battlefield, wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So one of the things I would recommend there for Living City is just either having some Wildercore hunters. They're pretty good for that because they can sneak out of reserve, and if they're 12 inches away they can't be targeted, especially if they move into cover. So I think is how they work. So you can just pachoo. No, we would have content guidelines on Only Paints. That's what we would have. I'm glad the Sinister Side Titan is returning. I've painted one of those before and it was great. But yeah, Wildercore Hunters, they're good for Living City because you've got that shooting unit that can move on to reserve. Cavaliers, they're also very good for Living City because again, they can just come on and then they're fast. So they've got that extra movement range in order to... they can't move immediately, but if they come on from a table edge, they're a pretty decent combat unit as well, especially if they're buffed up. Yeah, some pretty cool stuff you could do with Living City, and as mentioned, you can ally in Sylvaneth if you wanted to. I really like Greywater Fastness for all the shooting. Greywater Fastness is great. Hammerhall Aksha, they're really good because of the 2 orders thing. It means that in a Hammerhall Aksha, you don't actually need to take Talia Vedra because you can have a character do it themselves. I think Pontifex Zenestra is a must-have for all Cities of Sigmar armies. Because of her prayer. Here's the crazy thing you can do in Cities of Sigmar is there is a way to add 5 inches to the movement of everyone. So because of the way orders work, you can do advance in formation, and then any model that starts to move within 3 inches, any unit that starts to move within 3 inches of the hero that's giving the order can add 3 inches to their movement. In addition, Castellite formations can still set up fortified positions, even if they move, which they normally can't. So that's obnoxiously good because that means you now have Fusiliers that can move 8 inches. But if Pontifex Zenestra's prayer goes off, every Cities of Sigmar human, I think, on the battlefield adds 2 to their inches, 2 inches to their movement characteristic. So you can add 5 inches to the movement characteristic of everything on the battlefield if you want to, which on Cavaliers and on the Cavalier Marshal puts them on a 15-inch move. And so on and so forth. You can get some turn 1 charges off. You can also, I mean, it also applies to Talia Vedra, so she would move 19 inches, which is a bit obnoxious. So turn 1 charge with her, it's pretty horrible, but it is definitely possible, 100%. Yeah, and then there's some absolutely outrageous things you can combo up with Cities of Sigmar. Absolutely, 100% there is. I'm going to just turn my radiator off very quickly because it's now getting very hot in here. Oh, I can feel it. I feel it in my ears and in my nose. And that's when I know I'm getting hot. Living City would make sense as I've got Sylvaneth also, but got them primed, but haven't decided on which city yet. Yeah, I mean, well, so if you've got Sylvaneth, the only army you can't ally with in cities, the only city you can't ally with is Greywater Fastness, because they're not happy about them. Oh no, Black Hole Eyes is because I've got this new heater. It's a silent heater, so you didn't hear anything. I just have a fan heater, but that's now moved downstairs. And I bought this thing, and it's unbelievably efficient. It heats the room up like in minutes, but sometimes I forget, and then I get too hot. So now I've turned it off, and it should now slowly get cooler, and I'll get less sweaty. 58 likes, guys. We're doing well. 11 more. That's what we're after. Is it a Dyson one? No, it is a Prouse. This is a random brand on Amazon. I just saw it. It looks like a radiator. So I was like, cool. Get that. Right, what is next? Rims. What do I normally do on Cities? Black rims. Just reconnect. Bosh. And we're back. Hello. I need a bad one black. Oh, where am I going to put this? Down there. That'll do. Teeny spruce. I don't remember what for. Oh, for the cannon. Get out here. Pop you there. Dosh, dosh, dosh. So the decals do need to be smoothed down. Not smoothed down, they need to be sealed with some storm shield. But we will do that in a minute once we've done the base rims. Just give it the full maximum amount of time to dry as possible. Get out of here. You're not finished. Maybe your bayonet's bent. It's not what we like to see. What's your favourite AOS army? Oh. So I have 3. In no particular order. Although I think one of them probably is my favourite. My favourite is favourite. Stormcast. I love Stormcast Eternals. I think they're great. I've waxed lyrical about them before. I can continue to do so, if that is the will of the people. Sylvaneth. I really like them as well. Probably because of the Stormcast Eternals. And my boys in the Hallowed Knights. Gardas and Loris. And recently, just because of how long we've been waiting for it, but also just how well the range has been executed, Cities of Sigmar. Story-wise, I think the Lumineth are fascinating. I think the Flesh-Eater Courts are fascinating. I think the Ideneth are really cool. I'm a big fan of the Varan Spire and Archaon's, fighting pits. So by that nature, I really dig in on the Slaves to Darkness as well. I think the Seraphon can be quite compelling. I think what I'm waiting for is a really cool Dwarden faction to kind of unite the disparate clans. Because you've got the Caradron, who are okay. I think they're all right. They're very characterful and very cool, but they're not my favourites. You've got the Fire Slayers as well, and there's also the Dispossessed. And what I'd really like to see is a more kind of generic fantasy Dwarden army that kind of fights with axes and shields and heavy armor and cannons and stuff like that. So more akin to the old Warhammer Fantasy Battles are Dwarden. A faction I'm really excited for that could be my favourites will be Malekith Slot or Malarian, the Shadow Elves. I think they're excellent. I sort of half enjoy like the Sons of Bahamut. I think there's something cool there. And that's why I think a lot of people are big fans of that new Fire Slayers Warband, because they're not all completely naked. It's a really nice warband, that one. Cruel Boys, I do really like the Cruel Boys, and I like the Iron Jaws as well. I think they're very, very striking. They're a very effective colour scheme. But Orcs is Orcs is Orcs is Orcs. Cruel Boys are somewhat more interesting because they are an atypical Orc. They're more akin to a Tolkien Orc than a 40k one. That stuck up on me. It's because it's too hot in here. It's making me sleepy. Hey, look at that. 69 likes. Hang on. Nice. You guys are the best. Now we're on 70 likes. Now, oh. I have a hard time choosing an AOS. All look interesting. Yeah, they are. Flesh-Eater Courts, oh man, Flesh-Eater Courts, they are just such a compelling death faction. I mean, all the death factions are quite compelling. They all have like a sadness to them. Especially when you read about why they exist the way they do. Because Nagash is just vindictive as hell. The Nighthaunt book's really good for that. The descriptions of all of the units is absolutely outstanding. Nagash is just punishing people. The Ossiarchs are cool. Because they're all super militaristic. Soulblight Gravelords are vampires. I like the model range. I think it's really nice. They need some more... I think they need some, like... Not just the Eskurgan. There needs to be like a foot slogging blood knight type thing. I'd like to see that. Yeah. I don't think there's a faction in Age of Sigmar that I don't have something to love about it. I mean, when it comes to the Chaos lot, the Hedonites of Slanesh and the Disciples of Tzeentch are really nice. I love the Kyric Acolytes. I think they look really good. And I'm a big fan of things like Glutos or Skillion. What is your least favourite AOS? I would guess by the fact that I don't have one. Why has the stream gone dark? Oh, it hasn't. I guess by the fact that I don't have one would be Death. Because I don't have a full Death army yet. Would probably be my least favourite. Well, Black Hole Eyes, Stormcast Eternals will be the army for you. Or Slaves to Darkness. Slaves to Darkness have got lots of hard angles. Slaves to Darkness are excellent for it. Bard's family. Best models ever. They're so bad. It's just a badly modelled set of models. This is not, they're all just doing that. They look like they've been risen from the dead. How are we getting on? We're nearly dry. Almost ready for your second coat, are we? Nearly. Is Talia the best model ever made? Depends on how you're grading it. In terms of looks? In terms of how it goes together? In terms of the technology that's gone into designing it? Because looks is subjective. She goes together very well. The best of the three monsters in terms of the assembly was Ionis Cryptborn. It just... I can't tell you how simple that build was. How often do you play AOS? Not as often as I would like. You know, in an ideal world, I would have enough time to play a game of Age of Sigmar and a game of 40k once a week. And then also play a box game. Something like Warhammer Underworlds or Blood Bowl or something. Do all of that every week. I'd love to. But that is a long way off. terms of model detail and showcasing what they can do with modern techniques, the detail is insane. Yeah, yeah. Another candidate for your consideration is the Light of Eltharion. It's a hollow suit of armor. You can barely tell where it kind of is. It goes together, but also the components that are used in it to build it and the way that you build it. It's just an absolute technological marvel. I'm hoping that the what's it called? The Necron Overlord, the one that they showed the other day, Translocation, something or other. That guy, I'm hoping he's as good, technically, because you don't want it to look like, you don't want it to be very obvious that there's a pole holding it together. That's where the Light of Eltharion really works. Hope Skaven get a range refresh. I completely agree with you, Justin. Is AOS much different than 40k? In terms of what, Michael? Quality of models? Yes. Quality of battle tomes? Yes. Quality of video games currently? Yes. I think Age of Sigmar is just absolutely killing it. It's absolutely crushing it at the moment. And I think it's the best thing that Games Workshop makes. Does anyone else think that Alario been watching too much Starship Troopers when making Belthanos? Gameplay. Not really. Fundamentally, it's a Games Workshop game. It works pretty much the same way. There's a couple of big differences based on the game that you're actually playing, right? So things like you don't have to select a target for a charge. You just say you're going to charge. And that's because the game is more melee focused because there's a lot less shooting in it. And so, you know, there is less... you don't have to worry about going, I'm going to charge them, and then failing it. So you're standing there, even though there's someone 3 inches away, but you wanted to get for the one that was 5 inches away. Instead, you just declare the charge, see if it's enough to get in within engagement range, and then you get there. And then you can pile in whichever way you want to, as long as it's towards the closest enemy unit. But that means that there's a way for you to charge and then pile into a different unit, as long as you as long as you end your charge move within engagement range. And there's things like the priority turn is different. You roll priority every battle round, so it's where you end up with possibility of having a double turn. Some people really like, some people don't like. I like it because I think it teaches you how to asset manage, and it teaches you a more strategic approach to the game, because you don't want to overextend with, like, for example, I was talking earlier about turn 1 charges with Talia Vedra. That's all well and good, but if you're going first and you do a turn 1 charge with her, and then your opponent goes second, and then you roll priority and your opponent goes first, Talia Vedra is going to get hit by a lot of stuff, so you were just throwing her away. So if you're going second, absolutely do it, because there's a chance that you might go first in the second turn, so you get a double turn of using Talia Vedra to smack, rather than her getting smacked twice. You see what I mean? Not that you don't both smack each other in the combat phase. You do, but it's just like, you don't want to charge something turn 1, do your damage, they then do their damage back in the combat phase, then they have a round of magic. You don't want them to then have a round of magic, a round of shooting, another round of combat, followed by another round of magic, another round of shooting, and another round of combat, because that's a surefire way to lose your all-star centerpiece. I think one of the things that I think a lot of AOS generals make a mistake with is they plan to they don't plan for the double turn. They plan to annihilate you so that the double turn doesn't matter. And when that doesn't work, their game plan falls apart. So something like the Lumineth Realm Lords in the last edition They had really strong shooting, and they still do, but it's not like as obnoxious as it was before. There was a shooting combo with the Lumineth that was just utterly gross. But what it fell apart against was things that moved really fast, and also things that could just stop magic from happening. So things like Bellicor. So the shooting build didn't work when Bellicor was able to just say Teclis cannot do anything for this turn, and then the army was useless. Well, not useless, but it was nowhere near as effective. So yeah, I like that AOS works with Warcry and Warcry works with Underworlds. Yeah, it's all connected. And you get rules for everything as well. And that's it. Like Age of Sigmar's boxed games, the little small versions of the game, so Warcry and Underworld, they make some of the best models that Games Workshop makes. 100%. Like the Warcry box that just came out with the Gorger Moorpack and the Wildercore Hunters. Outstanding. That's a Warcry box, which obviously you then use in your Age of Sigmar games, should you want to. I wish Necromunda would work with what... And that's it, Captain Crunch. Necromunda has got a really cool range of models. Can't use it in 40k. Don't you dare try. Unless it's the... what are they called? Not the RBTs, although they are also in it. The Enforcers. Palatine? Palanite? Them. They can be used in 40k, but the gangs can't. Interestingly for you, Chewie, even if you just got some Zangor Enlightened or Zangor Skyfighters, Zangor Skyfires, you can still also use them in 40k because I believe they have 40k rules as well. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Alec, man. Guys, we've got 73 likes. Can we shoot for 100? We've also had 5 new members. Can we shoot for 100? Where's my storm shield? Where are you? It's the weirdest sentence I've ever said. That's Larmian medium. There it is. So now we head to the overhead. Bosh. And we just use small amounts of storm shield now, not loads. Oh no! It's rescuable. So I accidentally pressed my painted knuckle. On the diamond. And we just lightly use a wet brush. We can take it off. Whew. Well, now we can't use the storm shield on that. I don't know where that's come from. It's probably that. It's really annoying. Have you played Cities of Sigmar on the table? How do you like the orders? I haven't played them yet, but I've theory crafted them to death, and they're absolutely fantastic. I think the orders are really good. Obviously, the main two generic ones, in fact, probably the best. Advance in Formation is absolutely fantastic, and Engage the Foe is also very, very good. There's not too much in there that's horrible about it. It does mean that you'll need a character for every unit of Cavaliers that you want to use it on. But that's where Hammerhall Aksha is really good, because Hammerhall Aksha can issue 2 orders at once as long as they're the same, as long as they're different orders. So you can have a Cavalier Marshal with Hammerhall Aksha with a unit of cavalry, issue Advance in Formation to them, and then engage the foe. So that they all move 15 inches together, and then they all have +1 attack on the charge, which is great. It's very, very good. Right, now we can use a bit of Storm Shield on here. Yeah, Games Workshop loves to make Zangors work. They're the easiest the easiest thing to do. Whenever there's a Thousand Suns box set that comes out, there's always some Zangors in it. Which is always really funny to me. Right, this time we're going to do the cannon first, so I don't get black on it. Whoa. Way too much paint. There we go. Is it their combat patrol box that comes with Zangors? Good old Zangors. I did a video about the Disciples of Tzeentch battle tome when it came out, and I believe at the time I was very big on Carrack Acolytes. I still am. I think they're very cool. There's just a lot of flesh there, which I think when they came out pre-contrast paint would have been absolute murder to do. But these days, you can get a unit of Carrack Acolytes done really quickly. If you wanted to. Or you can take the Warhipster approach and get things done slowly. Or at least that's how it feels sometimes to me. Well, especially at the moment, because I'm still 100% not right after our recent brush with Papa Nurgle's 19th plague. Because I was finding it really difficult to concentrate for long periods of time. I definitely just touched this base rim with my finger. Yep, right there. There we go. So with the paler contrast paints, they reflect so much more underneath their primer. So if you Zenithal, what you're not getting is a fleshy. What you're getting is exactly what you're getting, right? So if you spray it grey and then white over the top in a Zenithal, so that you've got a little bit of grey sitting in the recesses, for example, around the face or an arm or something like that. What you're getting is flesh-coloured grey. Some of the other paints that are a lot stronger in pigment, like red and green and blue, they deal with it a lot better. But Flesh, Skeleton Horde, Griff Charger Grey is another one. because they're a lot lighter in color, what you're getting is the primer has much more of an influence there, which is why I don't do it. I don't zenithal prime because for me personally, I don't think it adds anything. Personally, I think it adds something for Instagram, certainly, but tabletop wise, I don't think it adds very much, especially when you're getting a little bit of extra shadows on the underside of your models, and it's like, but you look at them from the top down, you know. That's just me though. I know a lot of people really like zenithal priming, and more power to you. I just don't do it because I personally don't think you get as much out of it as some people might think. Especially if you then bring in base and layer paints, it does nothing then. So like, what was it? I had a chat with somebody who wanted to zenithal prime their Grey Knights, and I was like, why? You're going to put silver over it. Unless you're going to do it black and then zenithal prime with the silver, so you've got a lot of black. And no, their plan wasn't to do that. It was to paint the whole thing silver. Like, well, it doesn't do anything then. Yeah, but that was different, Rez. It's different. It was a different time. I've moved on. I now just go for the full coating. Yeah, well, there you go, Alec, man. So you're getting a really good, smooth finish from it, and that's the way you like to prime. Then absolutely prime that way. And but that's why Gilliman Flesh isn't helping you there, is because what you're getting is you're getting fleshy black, because it doesn't overpaint very well. What it does is it just fully represents, like I said, those lighter colors. Pilar Glacier is the same. Ethermatic Blue is the same. What else? They're not. They're just not They're not strong enough to cover up that black or grey or whatever underneath. They just fully represent it. So like sometimes, for example, you can put Blood Angels red or Baal red or Imperial Fist yellow and stuff like that. You can put those things over like mistakes because they cover it really well. If you like put some silver or something down, like a little flake of silver or just like a flake of a different color or something on a face, and then you put Gilliman Flesh over it, it will not cover it at all. The only model you did Zenithal was Bellicor. Yeah, exactly, Tommaso. And it didn't do very much for the Bellicor model. The only thing it did was it added a little bit of extra shadow underneath his chest. And nowadays I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't bother. I don't think it would add very much to him, especially now that we have Black Legion, for example. Josh, what's a good highlight colour for Plague Bearer Flesh? I'm painting up Underworld's Plague Rats, and I'm painting their robes in that colour. Good highlight for Plague Bearer Flesh. What colour is Plague Bearer Flesh these days? Let me have a look. I have a test ogre here, which I use for this exact purpose. This is Wraithbone, as an FYI. Deepkin Flesh is a good highlight for Plague Bearer. Pallid Witch Flesh might be a very bright highlight for it. It'd be a good spot highlight. Iron Rack Skin is a little bit too dark. Yeah, probably Deepkin Flesh would be what I would do. Yeah, so in those instances, Elec Man, what you end up having to do is you end up having to go for a stronger contrast color, which means you're not the right tone, which means you have to layer up and highlight more to get to where you want to. So like over like a Zenithal, Guilliman Flesh is not great, but Fire Slayer Flesh will work because it's a lot stronger in its recesses and it will cover really nicely. Deepkin has got a yellowy green feel to it. You could go for Dawn Yellow's a bit yellow. Screaming Skull, I mean, Screaming Skull works as a highlight for anything, especially if it's dry brushed. But Screaming Skull would also maybe work. Flayed One Flesh might work as well. There's lots. I think Deepkin Flesh will work though. But yeah, so when you've got those kinds of darker areas in the recesses, those darker paints will work. So Aethermatic Blue, not so great, but Talisar Blue would do a better job. Frostheart might do a better job, but then it's stronger and maybe you want to go brighter, so that's why you use the brighter contrast paint, right? So that's always the toss-up. It's like me whenever I prime my miniatures, I always make a decision on how annoying the components will be to paint if they are painted the wrong thing. So like Custodes, for example, they are really annoying to recover with grey sear if I want to do, say, brown on the gloves. You don't want metallic brown gloves because it doesn't look great. So for me, it's prime it in grey sear, even though gold is the majority colour. Same for like a hallowed knight or a grey knight, for example. You could do it, but then the sword would be annoying because it would have a metallic tinge to it. You don't want it. It's very that kind of style of Grey Knight's force weapon. It's very, very kind of matte blue. Hallowed Knights, again, could prime them in Lead Belcher, but not the characters, because the characters have got all the cloaks, and the cloaks would be really annoying to do with the contrast paint because you don't want a metallic cloak. So you either have to relayer it with grey sear or just paint it in a classic way. And for me, it's better to classically paint the metallics than it is to classically paint the soft bits, because the soft bits are what contrast paint was made for, right? Yeah, it's all a guessing game at the end of today. So here it is then. One finished Ironweld Great Cannon at long last. And then we have our, because they should be dry now, Command Core. All done. Videos coming real soon. What have GW sent you that you haven't painted recently? Nothing. Is the easy answer to that. Because I feel like it's my responsibility to do it for all of you out there, because that's the position that I am very luckily in. So to just sit on a hoard of plastic and not do it, it feels really bad. I can neither confirm that nor deny that. Dahi. Hello, Go For It Painting. Yeah, if Games Workshop sends me something, then I feel like it's my responsibility to paint it, because I have imposter syndrome about such things as well. So you know, if I don't do it, then I feel like I'm letting everybody down. You know, there's the occasional thing I get sent, like books that I use to inform my content rather than show it off. Not novels, I should just clarify. It's things like in the army set for Cities of Sigmar Battle Tome. It appears in one of the videos, but I haven't made a video about the Battle Tome, if you see what I mean. And that's generally because my channel is not a destination for that. But in the descriptions of things, when I think something is an absolute worthwhile, 100% needs to be in the thing, I will put it in there. And when we're talking here on live stream, when you guys ask me tactics about things about rules and stuff, I can answer them. So it all informs things like this as well. But yeah, I just for me, it's that whole I have to justify being sent it by doing something with it, so that it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't just sit in my house. I don't just sit on a hoard of plastic that no one else gets. You know, that doesn't feel great to me. And that may kill me one day. Especially if they ramp up their rate of releases at some point in the future. You know. But yeah, it's, you know, that's the way I am. Oh, it's mine as well, Rufus. Trust me, I've got so much stuff here that is things where I've gone. So, for example, when the Leagues of Votan came out, and Games Workshop sent me all of those Leagues of Votan minis, and was very excited, and I painted them all up, and the only thing I haven't done yet is the Pioneers. I know, but I was like, how do I make this into a 2,000 point army? So I bought a box of Thunderkin, and 2 more boxes of Hearthkin, and I bought another box of the little transports whose name escapes me now. And they're all sat in a box now labelled Leagues of Votan for me to do at some point when I wish to finish the army. But because I've already filmed all of that stuff, it's not video content. So I don't sit and paint that, because Games Workshop might send me a new kit. And if they do send me a new kit, I feel like it's my responsibility to paint that to justify having been sent that. So I don't do my Leagues of Votan, for example. Same thing for the Astra Militarum. I've got 30 extra Cadian shock troops, a couple of heavy weapons teams. I've got another tank or 2, I think. Something just to round it up to 2,000 points. I've got Kassakin as well, all of that. It's all sat there waiting for me to do it. But when Games Workshop sends me Cities of Sigmar, I don't want it to just sit in the queue. And then the other thing I have to do as a YouTuber is I have to grow my channel. I have to make money. You know, I run this channel on a shoestring budget. I basically need to double my revenue before I can afford to pay someone to take some of the burden off what I do. Sagittar, yeah, that's the one. I'm currently building Ionis, and I'm blown away by how well it all goes together. Exactly, Dave. Doesn't it go together so beautifully? And given as you did Stormdrake Guard more recently than I did, it's so much more familiar, isn't it? Because the Stormdrake Guard kit looks almost the same. It's very, very like, oh yeah, I remember doing this. But yeah. So yeah, from my perspective as a YouTubist, I need to double my audience size and double the amount of views that my videos get when they drop out, when they go out. So my video tomorrow, I would expect to do roughly 1,500 to 2,000 views in the first 6 to 12 hours. If we can get that up to 4,000 views in the first 6 hours, that would double my revenue. If I could comfortably sit at around about 500 members, that would double my revenue. And that, for me, the only way I get there is by doing what you guys want. So that's how I run things, you know. And I know, like, there are videos that are from the older models that people really want to see. Stuff like the Varangard, for example. I know that video is something that everybody wants. But I have to weigh up doing the Varangard versus doing, say, the Gore Warden, for example. Because whenever that model comes out, that will be one that everybody really wants to see. Or High Justice Goremain. There you go. High Justice Goremain. Internet loses its mind over it. Everybody loves that model. So do I go, I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is Varangard. People will watch the Varangard video. Nowhere near as many as they will watch High Justice Goremain. Bots. Double YouTube memberships and viewers by bots. That would be excellent. I do not condone that, though, because YouTube would be very cross. Very, very cross. If you artificially inflate your numbers, you get demonetized and your channel gets shut down. Content would all still be there, but it wouldn't be monetized anymore. And that would be a disaster. I'd have to go back to work at a normal job. I wouldn't be able to make videos anymore. Edward, Alariel. Yeah, so Alariel's a great example. Even if I'd put Alariel out at the same time as Belthanos, despite Alariel being a very impressive miniature, nobody's looking for how to paint Alariel at that time. They're looking for Belthanos. So if I'd put Alariel out instead, or at the same time, you would see that. So Belthanos would sit around 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 10,000 views, and Alariel would maybe get 2,000. Have you ever made a painting guide on the mouth of Sauron? I have not, Fabian Matthews. Yeah, so the shade that I use does compensate for that, Dave. Bile Red, obviously it's a large. The main thing you're focusing on with Ionis is the wings, because the wings are so front facing, right? So like, if we look at him, so for him, right, when you look at the model, the main points of focus for the dragon are here and here, and because it's such a large area, what you don't want to do, what I didn't want to do, was do Flesh Tearers red, because in order to get it nice and smooth, you'd have to thin it down, and if you thin down Flesh Tearers red, you then have to do 2 coats of it. So the choice was, we either do 2 or 3 coats of Flesh Tearers red to get there, or we do 1 of Bile red and then 1 of a thinned down to an appropriate manageable level of Volupus pink, which is what I think I did, to get it to that colour. We then did Druchii Violet, I believe, on the wings, and then a bit of Cygor Brown, I think, was the tips. What about the rest of the city colour schemes? Yeah, Elec Man, so that's on my list to do, which will happen when I get the Fusiliers done, which is when I get a gap. And the gap is upcoming. I can't tell you when it is, but the gap is coming, so that'll be when I go, cool, now we can do the rest of the city stuff. There's no more Tower videos coming. No, there will be. There will be other Tower models coming. What do you think could be a Space Marine centerpiece model in the future? So I think Space Marines, generic Space Marines, I don't know. That's very, very difficult to do. One thing that Space Marines do have in their favor is they have a lot of character. They can have a lot of character-driven detail at the infantry level, which gives them a lot of presence, right? So the thing I've said recently is I didn't so much want Terminators. What I wanted was beefy Gravis dudes with siege hammers, right? Because it just feels a lot more modern, right? So, like, you think Blade Guard, right? Blade Guard as an evolution of the Intercessor, which is what they are, right? They add a tabard, they make them look a bit more ornate, they change the helm a little bit, they give them a big breacher shield and a cool sword. And that's all it took. But it massively improved them to the point of where Blade Guard did become a centerpiece for Space Marines, because in and amongst the rest of the Primaris, they were the most intricate and intriguing looking guys. And then when their multi-part kit came out, they added even more character with, like, the guy wiping the blood off a sword, and, you know, being able to sling the thing on the back, and being able to go 2 swords or 2 pistols and all that kind of thing. You were able to do a bunch of stuff with that kit, so that no 2 Blade Guard were the same. And that way, they became a centerpiece at the character level. With Space Marines, it's very difficult. Now, when you get to the non-Codex compliant chapters, like the Space Wolves, the Dark Angels, and the Blood Angels, that's where you can do some absolutely insane stuff at the centerpiece level, because you can bring things in like a super redesigned Sanguinor, for example, or like the Sanguinary Guard. If they got a glow up, they act as a centerpiece because they're painted gold within a sea of red. Same for Death Company, etc., etc. But you can also bring in specific vehicles for them, like a new Librarian Dreadnought that isn't just that Dreadnoughts normally are, but maybe one that's engaged in doing something. You know, because we see it on things like, and I know it kind of places the model within a certain area in a certain battlesphere, but when you think of old, what's his name? The model that Rich really, really hates. The Necron draining draining the little priest on the ground, it puts it in a very specific place, but it does create that kind of centerpiece mentality. You see what I mean? Like what this thing the Space Marines are never going to have is a giant monster, and they shouldn't. Illuminor Zeras, there you go. Thank you, Rez. Thank you for reminding me. We've got 91 likes on the stream. You guys are amazing. Can we get 9 more? Oh, Big Bad Peter Gaming with the 10. Thank you very, very much. You've been super generous today, Peter. How would you do battle damage / weathering on Sisters of Battle that have Magos purple armor and wearing white robes? Bombardment! So white robes, depending on what you're basing them with, white robes, what you can do is you can use very gentle stippling of a brown is what I would do. So I would use probably wildwood by just gently stippling it along the base of it, and then stippling over with a clean brush to kind of mop up most of it, so it adds that little element of a little bit of dirt to the bottom of a white robe. You can also, you know, occasionally put the odd little kind of flicker of blood for the blood god, little bit, not too much, but just a little bit, like maybe from like towards particularly on like the Hospitalier, I think is what it's called. You know, you can absolutely put it on that one. For the Magos purple armor, pallid witch flesh is probably the best thing for adding like little nicks and scrapes and things. But what you do is you add a little bit of that pallid witch flesh, right? So, or you start with black, for example, and add some little flecks and things, like maybe like a cut or something. And then you use the highlight around it to give it that 3D thing. So if I, hang on, I'll tell you what, I'll just quickly, it's the wrong color, but what white do you use? I use White Scar and Corax White. So a really good way of doing some weathering, right? If you want to add battle damage, for example, use Black Legion. Okay, and we've got our test ogre here, and we use a little bit of Black Legion to add, say, a little cut in the armor there, like that, and then take most of it off and add maybe a little scrape there and there, like that. Then what you can do, and forgive me, I'm just going to go straight from the pot. Like I said, I know it's the wrong colour, but if we take some lead vulture, just a little bit, like that, you can put that right in the middle of your large scrapes, like that, and then for your highlight colour, if we're going to use pallid witch flesh, for example, just along one side of it, like that. And like you can, for example, here, add some little dots, little lines. Just like that. And that's a weathered gauntlet. Jen Lim, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for your kind words. There you go. That's the type of service we provide around here. If that was useful. I hope that was useful. And as A to the 40k homeboy says as well, there is obviously your choice of oils and enamels and things like that. Where you can add like real kind of awesome stuff. But I've never used them, so I can't help you there. I know the theory of them, but you know, it is what it is. Ooh. Oh dear, that needs to go on charge. Because I got filming to do. So, it is 20 to 11. I've done what I set out to do. Didn't unfortunately get to play any Realms of Ruin today, which sucks. We ran out of time. Decals and basing. That was the more important thing to do. Because these videos are coming out this week. So that's the Ironweld Great Cannon. And Prime the Changeling and Shalaxian Greyseer or Wraithbone? That's a very good question. Probably Greyseer. For that coldness. Or you could go for White Scar if you wanted to be a bit brighter. Yeah, probably Greyseer. I can't remember what I did the Keeper of Secrets in. It's what we do, Delicious Relish. I work from dawn till dusk. No, I don't. I wake up at 11 and I work till 4, and at the moment 5 AM. Marius Gage, you are very welcome. Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you for catching the live stream. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if we can get to 100 likes, that would be fantastic. And 17 members. Can we do 17 members? Puts us on a nice even 300. And then we can hold the hot gates. That's all I'm saying. Those hot gates need holding. The Persians are coming. Do you got time for walkies in the day? Most days, no. You know, we struggle with that, which is a terrible thing for my health, and I've got to get better at managing that. What I have to be better at is understanding that work isn't everything, which it has been for the last 2 years to get me to where I am now. And we're basically starting again because we're going to 100k. And you hope that it doesn't take the same amount of blood, sweat and tears and sleepless nights to get there. But we don't get viral videos around here. Instead, I provide high quality teaching content. Because that's what we all dream of, right? Is that I put out what I dream of is I put out how to paint Talia Vedra, and that just gets taken by the YouTube algorithm, and everybody in Warhammer sees it, and they just go, "This guy, let's subscribe." I'm going to make him a 200k a 200k channel. And then I'm just like, bro, 200k channel, what an incredible thing. But we're not there. That hasn't happened. It might happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So whilst we're going, we keep going the way we're going, and we hope to get to the good numbers. And I hope that this time next year we're sat going, hey, what an incredibly crazy year that was. We're now on 100,000 people. But we're not there. And we will get there. But I was saying, like, I think last week, next year I want to just like take a day, a month, to just work on me a little bit. So either paint things that I want to paint for me, or play video games for me, or that kind of thing. And maybe I stream it, maybe I don't. But like my first day off, aside from when I was ill, my first day off is actually upcoming in 6 months, something like that. At the beginning of this year, it was crazy because I went from January to June, just worked every day, and that was incredible because we just had this obnoxiously great time of growth. There were so many cool things coming out with all of the Slaves to Darkness and the World Eaters and Astra Militarum and all that kind of stuff. That was all coming out at the same time, and it was, that was amazing. It was great. And then it all topped off with Leviathan, really. And then it kind of slowed down a bit, and I slowed down a little bit because it's just not sustainable to work like that. I think the key is different coloured Space Marines. You're not wrong there, Marius. Just put out the same old Space Marines over and over again. That's very kind of you, 5 Solus. Hey, Mr. Dave B. It is I. The poshest of Joes. So yeah. It's been... hello, big thanks to all your painting tutorials. I do have a question. I ran into an issue with contrast and primer. I did GW dark grey primer. Contrast would not adhere. Any suggestions? Is that the Mechanicus standard grey you used? By any chance? Because some of those old other colours of primer, they have a lot more of a satin. Yeah, so the things like Chaos Black, Mechanicus Standard Grey, Mephiston Red, Lead Belcher, Retributor Armour, they generally have a little bit more of a satin finish to them, which is why whenever you see a Games Workshop video, or indeed a video from most of the people who paint stuff black, if they spray it with Chaos Black first, they'll generally do Abaddon Black over the top because it's matte. It's more matte, at least, than the primer is. Because of that satin nature to the primer, it can cause the contrast paints to do exactly what you said there, is to bead up a little bit, because it's basically going onto a moderately shiny surface. So it's kind of like if you were to drop a little bit of a little bead of water onto glass, you know how it doesn't just and just sits there. it runs around, and it can slip around on the surface, so you can move it like that. Basically, that's what's happening there with those older primers, because they've got that slightly more satin finish. So, in that case, if what you're going for is a really dark grey contrast paint-esque thing, what I would recommend is, if you spray it Mechanica Standard Grey, then just give it a quick coat of Mechanica Standard Grey. And then you'll be fine. It doesn't even have to be like a super consistent coat. Well, you know, just like I said, just give it a quick coat of Mechanica Standard Grey, and it should adhere to it a lot better. Because contrast paint goes really well over base and layer paints, because what you have is Grey Seer and Wraithbone, and they're formulated in pretty much the same way as any of the other base and layer paints that Games Workshop makes, and that's the whole point. So Mechanica Standard Grey, very similar. So if you go for Mechanica Standard Grey, give it a quick layer of Mechanica Standard Grey, and then your contrast paints over the top of it should adhere a lot better. Should. Unless you use some weird agent to thin your paints down, which makes them glossy. In which case you'll run into the same problem. But yeah. Well, you're very welcome, Levi. That's what we're here for. It is my singular mission in life, is to make sure everybody else has a great time when painting, as long as it's with contrast paint and it's the way I tell you to do it now. Curious question: from your perspective of contrast paint, what would be the formula for the red armor when painting Blood Ravens? Let me have a look. At Blood Ravens paint scheme. As I recall, theirs is either a bit browner or a bit more pink. So most people paint it with Mephiston red and use brown to shade it, and then add elements of corn red. So realistically, if you wanted Flesh Tearers red, could work, but Flesh Tearers red can be a little bit unruly on a Space Marine, and it's a little bit dark. I did a Flesh Tearers Space Marine. I don't know where he is. He should be in there, but he's not. Where are you, Mr. Flesh Tearer? Anyway, what you could do is you could do Bar Red and then shade it with Carabed Crimson, or thin down Volupus Pink like I did on Ionis Cryptworm. You did the Triumph of... You used the Triumph of St. Catherine guide, Marius. Oh, Marius. You're the first person to have told me that. That's an old video. Thank you so much for using my video to watch that. Because I did that thinking it was going to be an absolute... I thought, because I was like, just going to do a Triumph of St. Catherine. It's guaranteed 50,000 view video. No. No, it was not. Absolutely, categorically was not. Which made me laugh. But yeah, I mean, to end limit, you could also just do Blood Angel's armor. Really, theoretically, the only things that are different are the Achilles are gold, I believe, and their shoulders are bone, aren't they? So you could just do Bile Red and then 1-to-1 mix of Blood Angel's red and contrast medium over the top of it, and then you've got yourself the best red recipe in the world. Which, let's face it, that's what it is. I bought a timer recently to do fun challenges with, but also so that I can answer the question of how long did it take you to paint this one. Oh yeah, the sandstone base it is a tough one. That one, it's not easy to do. It's a good one for learning on. I absolutely agree that. It does have magnets. I thought it did. It's also got a little hook. You just hang it. I need to put a little nail in the wall so I can hang my timer. I also need to get a little thing that says number of days without accidents, which would be 0 days because I cut myself earlier, but I have considered it Elec Man, and it's on the list to do. It is on the list, trust me. I've got a lot of Luminef stuff to do, and I will get to it in the new year, probably, at this rate. Yeah, let me look at Helen 1 minute. They're the green ones, aren't they? Yeah, so based on the Benari Blade Lord of Helen. That's a terrible picture. So it's still white, but they've got silver. It's kind of an off green. Oh, that's tough. Because there's elements of Coelia Green Shade and Pterodon Turquoise and Eldari Emerald in there. I'd probably go for Grey Seer as my base coat for them, to be honest, to make them colder. I'd need a Lumineth Battle Tome to really look at it, because the artwork depicts it as like a midpoint between Eldari Emerald and Pterodon Turquoise, so you'd probably mix the two and then shade it with Coelia or Nuln Oil to give it that coldness. Still use a sort of white, but maybe shade it with Agrax Earthshade to get it that slightly off brown. But yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight. It is 3 minutes to 11. You got half an hour more from me. But it is sadly time for me to end, because I've got stuff to go and film now. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been the best audience ever, as per usual. I love you all very much. You're the best. Thank you very much, Big Bad Peter Gaming, for the 5 gifted memberships and for the £10 donation. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. And thank you to everyone for your 105 likes. And thank you for all your questions and for hanging out with me tonight. We will be back. I don't know if we'll be back for the stream, for the reveal stream, but we will definitely be back next Wednesday with another one. We might even do some Realms of Ruin next Monday as well. And yeah, thank you very much. See you all very soon. in the next one. Bye. Have a beautiful time.